Yo, welcome everybody. We'll get started in just under a minute here. Still seeing people flow in. So I'll give them another 60 seconds at 3 minutes past. I'm going to kick things off. We got Karthik in the building, Mr. Picard, Mr. Handsome himself. So it's going to be a good one. Stay tuned, guys. All right. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Spicy Takes. Say hello to my beloved CTO, co-founder, Karthik. Karthik, say hi to the people.
Hey,
Beautifully done. Everyone, drop a comment for Karthik. Let him know how handsome he is so that he comes and joins us again on the stream. The more we push him, the more you might get to see his face again and hear the hot knowledge that he's going to drop. Today, it's all about Spicenet. We got no guests, just me and Karthik in the flesh, and we're going to be talking about Spicenet as the DeFi brokerage network. Excuse my voice if it cuts out a little. I am battling a bit of a cold at the moment, but we got our water here and we got our go-getter attitude, and we're going to push through. So, Spicenet, the brokerage network for DeFi, we are enabling universal access to all of the venues across the entire space, as a good broker shall do. But before we get into what it is that we're doing, Karthik, maybe talk about the inspiration, the godfathers of brokerage, and
mhm.
and in traditional finance, what makes a broker a broker? What's their role? And yeah, we'll get started on that.
Okay, cool. So, in traditional finance, prime brokers are a key part of the market microstructure. In the sense that, I mean, they're regulated into the market structure, but then, if you want to trade stocks, if you want to trade commodities, anything, a prime broker is your single touch point for that. But then what they also do is that as TradFi start evolving into okay, just one asset class into multiple asset classes, stocks, commodities, you have FX, you have bonds, you have OTC, all of these stuff, it becomes really hard for someone really advanced to manage all of it in a single place. So what a prime broker really does is that they facilitate cross asset class and cross instrument execution. So let's say if you're a portfolio manager, if you're running a hedge fund or a trading firm, you would by default trade equities, right? You would let's say you trade equities across different exchanges, let's say NYSE, Nasdaq, and so on. The broker allows is a touch point for you to access all these venues, to access liquidity for these assets. Secondly, the broker offers in-house cross-margining facilities, so that you just deposit collateral once to the broker, and then you don't have to maintain collateral directly separately with each venue that you're trading on. So it basically streamlines uh, posting collateral and managing it, especially when you're trading those different menus. Thirdly, they extend credit. So let's say you have some Apple stock and then we're hedged out on futures. Um, the broker will facilitate credit by allowing you to borrow against it, get some cash, and hedge the exposure in futures. And finally, they also provide integrated connectivity to major clearing houses, clearing providers, so that you can easily settle your trades across different asset classes within the same prime brokerage platform itself. So think of them as like kind of a provider that is vertically integrating a lot of the things that you as a trader would do while you're trading in a single platform, so that they're reducing the overhead for you, they're streamlining a lot of things in a single platform, and then making your job easier. Um,
So I think an interesting way to look at it because people typically don't even really know they're using a broker, right? They might go to their
Right.
banking app. They're gonna buy some Apple stock in their banking app, or maybe you're like a Wealthsimple user or a Robinhood user, and you're buying through these apps, right? And you don't really, in your mind, to the user, it kind of seems like they're just accessing these markets. They're just
Correct.
purchasing the shares for themselves, right? So I guess a good way to look at it, because people don't really feel the broker there because it's so ingrained in what we do. What would it look like if the broker wasn't there?
So what would it look like if the broker wasn't there, right? So let's say, for example, if you're a trading firm, you're trading equities and you're trading futures, what would it look like is that you have $100, let's say, you want to buy Apple stock and then you want to hedge it on futures. You first deposit it to the Nasdaq. So you would buy some Apple, and then you need to have a separate pool of collateral because you can't borrow against your Apple. Okay, who will let you borrow against your Apple stock, right? You'd have a separate pool of cash. Then you need to deposit again to the CME uh, to buy, to, let's say, buy put options on Apple, right? But with a broker, you just deposit collateral once to your brokerage account, and you just express an intent to the broker. Hey, I want to buy the Apple stock on the Nasdaq, and then broker gives you additional level of control over your execution. Since, okay, you could, in this case, you're hedging out your exposure, the broker will give you a hedging algorithm out of the box, right? So you just enter some parameters, enter the venues, and then, okay, the broker automatically executes the hedging order for you on these venues. The broker will let you specify things like swaps. All the while, you're just depositing once to your brokerage account and not manually to each exchange. So what that means is that you're not manually creating exchange accounts on the Nasdaq and on the CME. You just have a single brokerage account.
So, like, if I wanted to, right, I could create a CME account and deposit directly to it.
No, because CME requires you to be a broker if you want to trade directly with it. But then, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But if the broker wasn't
yeah,
there, that's what I
yeah,
would be doing. It
correct,
it would it would be like it would be like a Hyperliquid account, right? I would
correct,
be
yeah,
going to Hyperliquid. Oh, I'm going to create an account.
yeah,
I'm going to
correct,
deposit here, and then I'd be trading those assets. And
correct.
then let's say all of a sudden I wanted to buy I think euros. Like, I think
Hmm.
the European currency is going to
Yeah,
outperform my currency, and my country's equities. I would
hmm.
have to then sell my
Exactly.
equities, pull funds out of the account, deposit into a forex account,
Hmm.
which, like, I'm not even sure where you would trade forex without a broker, but you deposit
Hmm.
into a forex account and then you would have to exchange your currencies, correct?
Yeah, correct. And not to mention that
And
you also need to accumulate yourself with how exchanges work in Europe because they're not the same in the US. And not to mention the CME and the Nasdaq work differently as well. So you have to know how each exchange works. Each exchange has its own idiosyncrasies that you have to know before interfacing directly with them, which is why this abstraction layer exists on top.
awesome. And then so all of that complexity that would exist without brokers in traditional finance, like, is it fair to say that this is basically exactly what we're doing in DeFi right now?
Kind of correct, yeah.
So yeah, so like the same example, like, I mean, give us an example
Sure.
in DeFi, where the CME is one exchange
Hmm.
and Nasdaq is another.
Hmm.
What's the process like right
Sure.
now?
Process right now is that you start off with a single pool of collateral. Let's say I wanna hedge. Let's say I want to do some funding arbitrage between Hyperliquid and Lighter. I deposit some money to Hyperliquid. I bridge some money to Hyperliquid, and then I bridge some money to Lighter. My collateral is already fragmented, and then I long on Hyperliquid and short on Lighter. I have two separate P&Ls, right? And then the issue also becomes that I have to manually integrate both Hyperliquid and Lighter. And then as I expand my venues that I operate on, that becomes a routine problem because each exchange works differently. And then the other issue is that it cannot effectively cross margin my collateral between these two venues in the sense that I cannot net my exposure between Hyperliquid and Lighter. I cannot open new positions on, let's say, a third venue using my combined margin between these two venues. So if I have some free margin on Hyperliquid and Lighter, I cannot use them to open a position on a third venue. That cross venue margining flexibility does not simply exist yet, right? Um, Till now, and then you might ask, right, like hasn't this existed yet? And then the answer is that we didn't need this before, right? Because previously all trading happened off chain on centralized exchanges. So that is why you have CeFi prime brokers, you have FalconX, you have Copper, you have Paradigm, all those guys. DeFi was a very irrelevant part of on digital assets trading until like 2024. It was when Hyperliquid took off. It was when Solana took off as well in meme coins. That is when actually the DeFi fragmentation part became material for traders. Because before 2024, they just had two to three major pub dexes, DYDX, GMX, probably that's it. A few major spot venues, but now we're seeing like 10 different major pub dexes that you could access with decent liquidity.
Yeah, I saw. I actually posted it on X like a couple days ago. It was some data taken from Token Terminal and then turned into a report by 1KX, and they were looking at fees accumulated by different services in the space. In 2021, the last time that we had as much revenue being produced in this space as we have so far in 2025, you had 35% of that revenue being produced by centralized exchanges. And then you had a bunch of other things like you had GameFi, all like NFTs, all this shit, right? But centralized exchanges by far in terms of in terms of trading platforms were producing the most revenue. And I think they had cheaper fees than what was happening on chain as well. So that means that the volume flowing through them was like exponentially larger than what was happening on chain. Now looking at it, you have only 8% instead of 35% of the revenue being generated in the space is on centralized exchanges, and the rise of the DeFi, the DEXs, the decentralized exchanges has been immense, and I think that as we see that shift to this decentralized playground, we need connectivity between the things. This is when we actually need to have a brokerage network in this space, and that's what Spicenet is stepping in to do. So, like the way that traditional finance brokerages operate, let's tell the people how Spicenet as a brokerage network operates and provides a similar service in DeFi.
Sure. At the core of it, we have similar to brokerage account, we have something called as a Spicenet account. It's basically a normal EVM key pair. You deposit funds to it, and then now you have access to integrations to large DeFi venues, starting off with derivatives venues, Hyperliquid. Um, so to a single intent layer, you can express, okay, I want to long on Hyperliquid and short on Lighter. We're having to A, manually integrate both these platforms, B, know the idiosyncrasies or differences on about how each platform works, and C, while operating through a single pool of collateral. So I just deposit once to my Spicenet account and I immediately start trading, right? I don't deposit, don't need to manually create accounts on these venues. I need to manually deposit to these venues. The fourth part is I get cross margining flexibility in the sense that I'm able to net my exposure between these two venues. I can basically take on new positions on any supported venue backed by a single pool of collateral, right? Which basically means that if I have, let's say, some idle margin on Hyperliquid, and then let's say some idle collateral on a Spicenet account, I can combine these both to take a position elsewhere. And then this level of programmability and margining efficiency was not possible before. That is what we unlock.
Yeah, so for the user that's using this brokerage network, I mean, in traditional finance, you said the same thing, right? I deposit to my brokerage account, right? But I don't even know who these brokers are in TradFi, or at least I don't have to. I do because I do, but but I would say most people don't if they're the average investor buying stocks through their, their bank account. How does somebody get assets into their Spicenet account to take advantage of these brokerage services?
Currently, it's available via our Spicenet API. Is currently in development. So when you get start using the API, we basically have an onboarding process when we generate a new key pair, slightly bit technical, but then we create the API secret authorization so we can do rebalancing, uh, collateral between different menus on behalf of you while you still retaining control of your account. And then once it's set up, it's basically just pick an account, pick a network on which you want to deposit your first collateral on. The same way the broker asks you, okay, from which bank would you like to deposit money from, right? And then you deposit money from any network into the key pair, and then you just immediately start trading via API. So it's algorithmic only for now. Plus all these popular venues, so you can easily do cross-venue strategies. It's built into the platform. Yeah.
Right. So I think a couple distinctions that are really important for us to make right now
Mhm.
on the functionality of it is A, custody versus non-custody.
Mhm.
B, um, the ability to which you can execute. How are you actually going to execute trades through it?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, actually, just start with those before I throw more things at
So
you.
this is more towards self-custodial aspect of things. So we don't control the key pairs. Basically, you run a binary on your server or your computer. We just generate the key pair locally, and then the permissions that you give to Spicenet can be revoked at any point of time as well. So it's not fully self-custodial. It's not fully self-custodial in the sense that you fully retain control of your funds, but in the sense that you have the power to revoke what Spicenet is doing on behalf of you, which is important. You can exit from the system basically, and then it's designed to be permissionless as well. So when the API is fully out into the wild, the idea is that we don't gate it. So it's the same thing what perp dexes did to normal exchanges, wherein when DYDX was first built, people asked, okay, how can I sign up to it? And then the answer was, okay, you just connect your wallet. And then people were mind blown. Okay, I can trade futures from just my wallet, and then the same will happen here as well, wherein you can just sign up. You can just anyone can start using it at any point of time. And that's it. You don't need any complex processes, and it's instant to use.
And so this is kind of like the shift in general from traditional finance to decentralized finance, right? Like in
Hmm.
traditional systems, you have
Hmm.
downtime where you're not allowed to be accessing the systems. You have not the ability to self custody, but you're trusting custody with somebody else. So tying that together, bringing the kind of value add that brokerage has in traditional finance into DeFi and matching the ethos of DeFi, sum up for everyone like what that vision is when you have those things come together. What does that make the vision for Spicenet?
Sure. So, simply put, to basically create a unified capital efficient DeFi stack for everyone. We know the future is multi-chain, have multiple asset classes. You'll have RWAs, you have lending, you have perps, all of these. Uh, you will need a way, you will need a single capital efficient touch point to access all of these. We TradFi has shown the market structure for these. We're bringing it on chain in a fully self-custodial and permissionless way. And yeah, that's what we're kind of trying to do.
Okay, so Spicenet as a brokerage network is going to be a single endpoint for people to access all markets in a cross margin capital efficient way and to
Right.
not have to compromise and decide which markets, which asset classes they're accessing. Going back to what you said before, talking about when we were all trading on exchanges, and this was, I think you said this was the only thing we needed to trade digital assets at the time, right?
Mm.
And And another thing I want to add on top of that is digital assets at the time meant cryptocurrencies,
Mm,
right? Now digital assets takes on a whole new meaning because you have
mm,
equities joining the party. You have treasuries joining the party. Um, what other asset classes like tokenized IP, Camp Network, shout out Camp,
mm,
right? Like there's so many different asset classes that are becoming digital assets, and it's insane to basically expect that one place, one market, one application, one chain even, or one venue is going to be able to offer all of the different offerings of all of these different asset classes. So
correct.
this is really the time in the market where somebody needs to come in and create this brokerage network that's going to give you the single touch
Mm,
point to all of these different asset classes and do that in a way that your margin is understood together. And I mean, for me, I already kind of know where I want to see this going. Actually, let me get to that in a bit. I want to start with the products that we're working on right now before I get you to get into like the big brain long term goals that you want to achieve with Spicenet. But real quick, we have two products that we're coming to market with, right? One that's already been announced, one that's still in the works. Give us a summary of Spice Flow first, and let's talk
mhm.
about the solution that creates for people.
Sure. So Spicenet makes applications on single network feel native to users across every major blockchain ecosystem. With a few changes to the client side, users can now mobilize idle collateral across multiple networks and then deposit them directly into your application in a one-click fashion. So what Spicely accomplishes is that DeFi today is a multi-chain, multi-step environment wherein you just constantly have a bridge between chains, and even the single chain just to onboard you have a lot of steps, right? You have to get gas, to switch network, all of these things, right? And it's unnecessary. So what Spiceflow does is that you as an app can collapse these multi-chain and multi-step workflows in a single step for the user to execute in a one-click fashion. So this user just signs once, and then he can immediately, route collateral from any of his foreign networks into the app directly in a fully, one-click fashion. So for the app, that is reducing the overall friction, making the app more usable, making more UX friendly, and that's really important for DeFi. Um, and yeah, that is Spice Flow. Spice Edge is a much more advanced product.
Let
Uh-huh.
let me just take a second on Spice Flow here and just summarize what you said.
Hmm.
So Spice Flow, I want to tell a little backstory of when we built the Dex. So Karthik and I met when we were building dexes on Solana, right? Two different dexes at the time. We came together and started working on a dex together. And it was great. I mean, like we were able to build some unique use cases, I think, in that dex that we had, and we were very early to some things. But a problem that we faced being early builders on Solana was that all of the users that were trading high volume were on Ethereum, and all the liquidity for all the assets were on Ethereum as well. And we had no way of bringing these users over from Ethereum to Solana. I mean, even nowadays, like there's bridges to bridge from Ethereum to Solana, but you have to create a whole other wallet. And the bridging, it depends on what assets and depends on where you go, but bridging gets pretty tough from Ethereum to Solana, especially. So that onboarding process was just so difficult for us to acquire the users on Ethereum. So we really built Spiceflow as like the solution to that problem that we faced, where users can just show up. Doesn't matter what chain you're on, as long as Spicenet has an adapter on it. The user's going to show up and they're just going to deposit or swap or do whatever action directly on the application itself. And Spicenet kind of just sits in the background and facilitates the actual deployment of capital on behalf of that user. So it solves distribution for that application, giving it access to users on all these other blockchains. Now, Spice Edge, which is the more complex product, I will let Karthik. I'll let you explain that
Hmm.
right now.
Sure. So, think of Spice Edge is a single trading engine that that offers cross instrument market access out of the box. So you can access the largest DeFi venues across different segments and instruments from a single OEMS. So you can create your Spicenet account, fund collateral into it. Now you have ready built integrations with the largest DeFi venues, be it perpetuals for now. You can have spot, you can have yield, all of those things baked into it. Um, and then it unlocks all of the four benefits I shared listed before. It streamlines integrations. It removes the need for builders to know, okay, how does each exchange work? How does funding rates on this work? How does margin on this work, right? And it gives advanced cross margining capabilities for users, and then removes the need for them to create accounts in each exchange to just start accessing it. Yeah,
So who is one example of like a main user for
Mm,
this, and why do they care about
sure.
this?
Let's say if you're an let's say if you're an algo trader. Let's say you're kind of capturing front rate arbitrage, basis arbitrage, price arbitrage, any of these things, or just trading directional strategies on across multiple venues, any of the things, and then you, let's say, are not able to expand to multiple venues. Spices basically provides you a single solution wherein you can tap into all of the largest venues in a single API integration. You can have just fund your account once, not have to manually create accounts in every platform you want to run your strategy on. That's one example. Let's say, for example, a DeFi vault creator, right? Let's say you're running some form of a delta neutral strategy. Let's say running some direction strategy and then you're giving that yield back to users. Right? Just gives you that extra firepower that enables you to win and deliver additional value to your holders. Yeah,
Right, because if things are out of your reach, if your users can't access, or if the vault that you're on doesn't easily access, you know, a yield that exists somewhere else in the
Mm,
space, or it doesn't have the capital efficiency to do these hedge strategies that a lot of these vaults love to do. Like Spice Edge is a huge unlock that's going to give a major competitive advantage to the people that want to offer better for their LPs into those vaults.
right.
Um, I want to go back to the example you and I discussed it on our team call this week. Do you remember talking about arbitraging
Mm,
gold on two different platforms?
yeah, yeah. It was between Lighter
So
and
let's
Ostium.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you're trying to hedge, or yeah, there's a delta neutral arbitrage strategy opportunity that comes up between lighter and ostium. Let's assume you don't have accounts there yet.
Mhm.
What's your process to take advantage of that pre have Spice Edge as a product?
Right. Without Spice Edge, because these things are in different networks, you have to maintain collateral in Lighter L2, to maintain collateral in Arbitrum, which is where Ostium is. You have to create accounts manually on both Lighter and Ostium, deposit collateral into those accounts, and then you'll figure, okay, how does Lighter work? How does Ostium work? What are the margin requirements like? What are the funding rates like? Each exchange may work differently, right? The API things, API responses may be different, right? So if you figure all those out, there's the 33 steps, and then you start trading. And then the issue becomes is if there's a way, like if there's an opportunity for you to hedge your opposing exposure because you've longed and shorted on Austrian lighter, you could effectively hedge your exposure if it was all in a single venue. Imagine you were longing spot gold and then shorting gold perps on a single cross margin venue. The venue would automatically net the exposures out. So you have a effectively net like zero exposure between, since it's on different venues, you can't effectively do that, right? And then there's also another issue. Let's say I want to let's say I want to take a separate position on Hyperliquid, right? But then I'd have to first withdraw from, let's say, Lighter wherever I have sufficient margin, and then deposit Hyperliquid and then trade. So there's a lot of inefficiencies here, right? And now with Spice Edge, come to your API, create your account, deposit collateral to any network of your choice. You can funds on base or deposit to base. Um, and you have already built integrations with Ostium and Lighter, and then you just express your intent. And then your intent could be, okay, long this much on Lighter, short this much on Ostium, and then the benefit, and then the which is where this gets interesting is that think of the OEMS part that I mentioned, the trading engine. Think of it as like a intent layer sitting across the APIs of all of these exchanges. So you as a trader just need to focus on expressing your intent, to expressing your goal, and then we translate that into actual API orders on these exchanges, or actual transactions on these exchanges. So you get that really good benefit that, okay, I don't have to care how the Lighter API works. I'll start to express my intent in a JSON format with Spice Edge, right? I said to say long this much on Lighter, short this much on Ostium, none. And now where the cross margining part comes in is that now I can say to Spice Edge, okay, if I have exposures on these two venues that can be netted due to different two bidirectional positions, transfer collateral between one menu to another, thereby netting the exposure. And then now you can say, okay, I want to, let's say, suddenly buy BTC or Hyperliquid because BTC has dropped. And now you can say, okay, now I have $50 in my Spicenet account, this, as that is collateral. Now I have $20 as free margin available on Ostium, right? Now I can satisfy Sage, okay, take these $70, 50 on my Spicenet account, 20 on Ostium, and use the 70 as margin long BTC at 10x on Hyperliquid. So that gives you that extra cross venue margin flexibility when you're using your margin on Ostium as well as Spicenet account to do something on Hyperliquid.
So basically, not only do I not need to show up to each of these places, create accounts, deposit funds to each of them, let's say $100 here, $100 there, so $200 total, I could basically just have $100 in my Spicenet account. And I could
Correct.
basically get the same size for less capital because I have the unified margin across the different
Correct.
venues. Okay. I'm going to try and explain like I'm 5, and I'm making this up off the top of my head, / was just thinking of it as you were explaining that. So here goes nothing. So you're in the city. Let's say you're in Toronto because that's where I'm from. And on one side of the city, you have a store that's selling Coca-Cola. And then on the other side of the city, you have another store that's also selling Coca-Cola. Let's say they're both gas stations, right? Now, one of these gas stations runs out of Coca-Cola, and they basically tell you, I will pay you $5 per Coke right now because I'm desperate. So the price of Coke is basically $5 per can at that store for a limited time because they're desperate to fill their shelves. Well, on the other end, they just got a massive shipment of Coca-Cola. So they're basically like, we need to get rid of a bunch of this. We will sell each can of Coke for $1, right? So the difference is a $4 difference in between those two stores. Now, if I wanted to take advantage of that, which will only last for a limited time, because if this store that has no Coke is able to get Coke, they're no longer going to pay $5. And if the store that has a lot of Coke runs out of supply, they're no longer going to sell it to you for $1. So how it currently is, if I wanted to take advantage of this, would be like I have to take the bus over to the store that's going to sell it to me for $1. I have to buy it off them. I buy 100 cans with $100, and then I go sell them. I take the bus to the other store across the city, and I sell them for $5 each there. With Spicenet, it would basically be like you already have guys in those stores that are your friends. They're in a group chat together, and I just message the group chat and say, "Guys, I have $100. You buy Coke over here. You sell Coke over here, and we'll all share the profits. Except for you wouldn't have to share the profits really. You get them all yourself. That's basically the unlock that you have here. Instant access. You don't have to travel across the city, which means that you're going to be the first one to take advantage of this deal, and you're going to make sure that you're the one that gets that price differential, because in crypto it's not like these price differentials last very long. Somebody is going to take advantage of them very quickly, and if you're not the first one to it, you basically don't get to profit off that arbitrage. So that's sort of the unlock for that player in that situation. Okay, well, we're close to the 40-minute mark here, so we are going to log off in a second, but before we go, Karthik, what is like the long term? What do you see the space building to because of the brokerage network capabilities that we're offering? So, what do you think having a brokerage network in crypto is going to enable in the long term for crypto?
Right, sure. So, off the top of my head, it means our users, either by directly interacting with us or through third parties, will get access to better financial outcomes. A, because Spicenet delivers broad market access, so you can just off the top of the bat capture more opportunities, and also by the capital efficiency gains, you have lesser capital locked up, so you can do more with the capital. And secondly, what will unlock is that easier way for users to specify intent. So I can just go and say, ideally, it'll look like I can just go and say, okay, give me the best lending rates available across all the top protocols across all networks. If I'm a curator, that matters to me because I want to be able to deliver the best risk-adjusted rates to my users, and I can just do that expressing a single intent. Um, and then for all of these middlemen, it means that now they have a really significant competitive edge against the competitors. So now they have actually a chance to win in digital asset markets through real innovations.
Yeah, I mean, what about like from a UX perspective for the people that are listening, like to go a step further, because the UX difference between TradFi and DeFi is still massive
Mm,
in the sense that I can trade on the Nasdaq in TradFi without knowing that I'm trading on the Nasdaq. I just know what I want to buy.
mm.
Um, what do you see as maybe the unlock for like the rest of the world that
Yeah.
isn't even using crypto yet and is going to inevitably use crypto or DeFi
Mm,
as
mm.
the world kind of adapts it into their systems?
Right. Good point. So with us, right, like so the user again just expresses their intent. The user could just say, okay, here's my collateral. Like give me the best execution. I want to buy one BDC long at 10x leverage. Give me the best execution, right? And then he does not care if it's on Hyperliquid and lighter. He just cares if he gets the best spreads, and then he gets the lowest carry cost, which is the funding rate aspect, right? And then Spicer executes it according to his wishes. And secondly, as well as you said, like you want to buy Apple on Nasdaq, but then you don't know how the Nasdaq works. You don't know how the Nasdaq APIs work, right? And then that is the same with fund manager as well, right? If you're managing a fund, you don't really know how the Nasdaq APIs work, right? So this unlocks really next level of DeFi capabilities, wherein people who are previously stuck, interfacing with exchanges in terms of they're building manual integrations, so figuring out how each exchanges work, they can now actually focus on delivering value to customers. They can just focus on expressing what they want to do on these markets.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like my thoughts on it are basically you'll have all of these markets, all of these products being built in DeFi. There'll be better ways of conducting finance than what we have in traditional systems. And people are just going to use them without knowing what specific services they're actually using. They're just going to tell like their app, let's say it's Robinhood. They're just going to tell Robinhood, I want to buy this, I want to lend this, I want to sell this, I want to do whatever. And Robinhood will just go through Spicenet and say, okay, well, we're going to go tap into this market over on this chain. And the user, all they're going to know is the results that they're getting. And this is what's going to allow DeFi to be a back end for all of finance and be integrated with all the financial systems that people know how to use. They'll just make those systems much more powerful and they won't even necessarily know which applications they're accessing the same way we do with the NASDAQ or the CME as is. So yeah, that's my sort of long-term vision. Guys, if you stuck with us for the whole time, thank you so much for listening in. Karthik, it's been a pleasure to have you on again. Please come back to us soon. I know the people here are going to miss you. Always fun to get to riff in front of everyone and take it out of our Telegram DMs that are always going 24 hours basically. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming in to listen. Spicenet, is the brokerage network for DeFi. We're going to create universal access to all the top venues across the space. As Karthik said so beautifully, we're going to offer a single endpoint for capital efficient access to all of the different markets on all the different chains and all the different venues and all of the different asset classes in a way that will be so seamless that people will just know what they're doing and not necessarily how they need to do it. Guys, thank you so much for listening to us rants. Until next time, stay spicy and we'll see you soon. Take care.